Good morning and welcome to your Farm and Home Show. I'm Kristi Shive, and this morning we're visiting with Laura Weddle. She's an extension specialist for farm stress and rural mental health for the University of Kentucky. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for being with us, Laura. Always a pleasure. Now, today you are going to talk to us about something that is applicable to many of us, and that is National Stress Awareness Day. Laura, what is Stress Awareness Day and when is it?
National Stress Awareness Day. It's the first Wednesday of November. So for this year, that's November 2nd. And this day is basically to increase awareness about stress and how it impacts our daily lives. Through this day, it can help us recognize and manage stress with the overall goal of reducing our stress. It's really interesting to note that the term stress is actually a relatively new concept, less than 100 years old. The initial psychological attribution of the term occurred in 1936. So really not that long ago that we started to recognize stress as something that was occurring. By the 1950s, professionals were giving stress more attention. It became a topic of papers and reports and studies. And now we have a day dedicated to something that we all experience.
That's really interesting, Laura, that it's taken some time for stress to be acknowledged, but we are very lucky that it is being talked about and mental health awareness is being talked about. Laura, how can we observe National Stress Awareness Day?
The last thing we want to do on National Stress Awareness Day is stress out. So we want to make sure that it's a good day where we try to be stress free. Leading up to the day, recognizing the ways that stress impacts our daily lives. Take note of the common negative stressors that occur for you and how you respond to them. You really want to kind of engage in some self-care activities. And there are several different ways we can engage in self-care. That could be enjoying a hobby, exercising, getting some good sleep. We can also incorporate healthy breathing exercises, meditation activities, and sometimes self-care is just spending time with the people that you love and enjoy.
Now, Laura, I know that some of the symptoms between depression and stress can overlap. What are some resources for anyone watching who may be experiencing depression or stress?
Right. Stress is interesting. We all experience it, and some of us experience it every day. It's our body's response to an external event or a pressure. So we all feel it from time to time. Sometimes it's a physical response or a mental response, and sometimes those stressors are repeated. Sometimes they only happen once. It can be a life change, having a lot of homework, trying to tackle a hard task at work. It can be financial stress, family related, communications, from having an illness, or even from a traumatic event like a natural disaster. Sometimes stress can even be a positive thing, like trying to meet a deadline. But it can become negative if it starts to interfere with sleep, mental health, or your physical health. Stress, it starts to affect your mental health and your physical health in more severe ways. You might need to get some extra assistance. So if you're experiencing excessive worry, uneasiness, tension, you might feel some headaches or body pain, high blood pressure. That is a physical component sometimes of stress. Loss of sleep. These are all things that you need to address and recognize. So that's when you might want to engage in some self-care, or if it continues, see a mental health provider or your primary care provider. And then, as always, 988 is available for mental health and suicide crises. It's our new national suicide and crisis lifeline. Always call 911 if it's an immediate emergency, but 988 is there for you, where you can speak to a trained crisis professional.
Laura, thank you so much for such important information. Thank you for joining us today on the Farm and Home Show, and we'll see you next time.